Alright, it's release day for BT01. Today is Friday the 22nd. Well, for you, not for me. I recorded these well in advance. But today we're talking about the last clan, Oracle Think Tank, who has been performing the best because of their huge consistency, because of their big draw, the power of the Protect gift, and the strength of their finishers with Imperial Daughter pressuring your opponent with high crit and then leading into a big push play with the Deer. Glorious Deer, I believe it's called. I can never quite remember its name. But yeah, Oracle Think Tank are very, very strong. And today we're going to be going through all of their cards, talking about what's staple, what's tech, and what's unplayable, and talking about why it is the case for all those cards, and how they fit into the deck's winning image. So, let's get right into that.
As always, we begin with the VR. In this case, it is Imperial Daughter. When placed, you get to check top 2 for any card you want from among them, and then the other one either goes on top of the deck if it's a trigger, or well, sometimes you'll also put it at the top of deck if it's something that you want to get to hand and you have another draw effect like Luckbird or Satoru Hime, and otherwise you put it into Soul to fuel its secondary effect, which allows you to Soul Blast 1 to give one of your units +6. And also, if you roll on top of a grade 3, this unit gets plus 1500 and +1 crit. So, this informs the major theme with OTT. OTT is a very plussing deck, but most of those pluses actually come from the Vanguard. So, your goal with OTT is to re-ride a bunch, get these Counterblast 1 +1s, and get Protect gifts to hand to guard endlessly. Imperial Daughter is particularly great because once you're already on a grade 3, then she's putting on big pressure on your opponent to guard it and requiring a bunch out of their hand, while also being able to power up your other units to apply decent pressure, all while setting up for your Deer turn by either getting your opponent's damage high or whittling away their hand. CEO Amaterasu is your ideal first ride, but also functions very well as a rear. This, unlike Imperial Daughter, is a repeatable draw one. Just simply act, Counterblast 1, draw a card, and look at the top card of your deck, put it to top or bottom, scry 1, easy peasy. And then it gets +5 for each time you look at cards from your deck. So Imperial Daughter, this effect, and then Farfall and Mei, that's the one. I almost said meme, but it's Mei. So this functions very well as a rear once you've gotten your Imperial chains going. You just start slapping Amaterasu's on the rear, and they end up getting real big. And yeah, that can be pretty dangerous for your opponent. Very good times for you, though. The last grade 3 that really matters is Victorious Deer at double rare. This is your finishing play. This is your Soul Saver Dragon. Once you've gotten 2 grade 3s in your Soul, you can use its effect Soul Blast 2 grade 3 and discard a card from hand. You first look at the top 7, put up to 2 crits from among them at top of your deck, shuffling the rest at the bottom of your deck, and then all of your units will get plus 10k power. It's very potent. Whether you ride this or call this to rear, it works. Sometimes you will just have to ride it to get that second grade 3 in Soul and to give yourself something to discard, because sometimes at that point in the game, your hand will be whittled away enough that you need to call basically everything from your hand to be able to make the board. And the fact that when you ride this, you'll get the Protect gift, gives you a free discard to activate the effect, so everything will be hunky-dory. It's very, very powerful, and after your opponent has been whittled away by Amaterasu and Imperial Daughter, it is typically going to finish them off. Our other grade 3 options are nice, but because of their lack of gifts, they're not really good enough. Sarasa allows you to scry 1 when it attacks, and if you put bottom, it gets +6, swinging for 18k solo, which is very good. And Chitose allows you to once per turn discard a Sentinel to draw a card and get plus 10k, which is obviously very good value, and because of the nature of rewriting in OTT and Protect gifts, this effect can be very strong since you will often find yourself with an excess of Sentinels. But there just isn't space in the grade 3 lineup for Chitose, unfortunately. Now we move into the grade 2s with Silent Tom. Silent Tom is a triple rare grade 2. You know what he does probably. When placed, Counterblast 1 to give himself +6 for the turn, and your opponent cannot guard him with normal units. And he is complete ass. I have explained why Silent Tom is a bad card in a previous video when V-BT01 first all dropped, and I was saying at that point that I think he'd only end up as like a 2 or 3 of, if not dropped. And since then, basically every topping Japanese list has dropped his ass. Now let me explain why. The reason is that Tom does not actually do much of anything. All he does is maybe force your opponent to overguards. Because here's the deal with Tom. If his power is high, he is going to be guarded by grade 0s anyways. So the only way for him to get value is for him to be hitting for only 1 or 2 stages, and your opponent guards with a 15k or 20k trigger shield, and thus they overguarded. But that is such a little thing that does not make a big enough difference. And in addition to that, there are many times where you're going to be overguarding anyways, and it just literally does not matter. Like when you can just use stuff like Satoru Hime and Promised Daughter and be at 3 stages and force that 15k shield anyways, like who cares? This effect doesn't work. Like the power of guard restrict is either forcing an attack through or forcing your opponent to use more cards from hand than they normally would. That is what gives a guard restrict power. And to do that, you need to lock your opponent out from their primary method of guarding this attack. With rear guards, that's going to be grade 0s. With Vanguards, that's going to be Sentinels, or in the G era, G Guardians. But Silent Tom doesn't do that. He stops you from using your backup guard power. And that is just not an impactful card. Silent Tom could have been good if his other effect actually did something. Like, say for example, if Silent Tom's on place was a Counterblast 1 draw card and maybe get some extra power. And then it still had that effect. That would be a really good card, because you're getting a solid effect as is, in addition to this subtle, maybe force you to overguard effect. But as Silent Tom is, he is complete garbage, and you really should not run him. Promised Daughter, I already mentioned, but this is very strong. Just becomes 15k as long as you have 4 cards or more in hand, which is the easiest thing in the world. As long as you have 2 before you swing with your Vanguard, like that's the condition. You already have it. And it can't be retired by your opponent's card effects, which makes it integral for any Kagero matchups, allowing you to have front rows and apply pressure without having to worry about getting your field retired. It's really fantastic. Mei Mei is not much at first glance, but it's pretty great. On place, you just scry 1. This gives power to Amaterasu, and this increases the chances of you hitting a trigger, which is always going to be good. It's just a solid effect that really loses nothing to do it. Like, it's just free. It's just a free scry, and that's solid. So Satoru Hime is Counterblast 1 that doesn't +1. However, it gets 3 nice subtle effects rolled into 1, and that makes it worth that cost. For Counterblast 1, you get to draw 1, discard 1, get +6k, and then scry 1. All of these are nice little things, and packaged together into a Counterblast 1 package is real solid. You get to discard stuff that you really don't need at that time, swing for 3 stages usually, as long as this has a booster, and then you get to increase your chances of a drive trigger that turn or a damage trigger on your opponent's turn. Either way is solid. Saft is not terribly strong of a card. It can let you Soul Blast 1 to pump it to 15 as long as you've drawn that, as long as it's on the field to see you draw. I've seen builds run this because they just want a bunch of 15k attackers. Nothing wrong with that. If you want to go that route, good for you. Solid Turtle is a Soul Blast 1, draw a card and discard a card from your hand. This is solid enough, but there is another card that does this better. That is the special campaign promo for Oracle Think Tank, Onmyoji of the Moonlit Knight. On place, you Soul Blast 1 and discard a card from hand to put the bottom card of your deck into your hand. This interacts very well with all of your scry effects, allowing you to get back something that you remember putting to bottom earlier in the game. Like the last scry you did, whatever you put to bottom, well, play this, you get it, and yeah. You don't use that soul enough for this Soul Blast cost to be really a detriment, so Onmyoji is real solid, and obviously better than Solid Turtle. I definitely recommend 1 or 2 of this. Lastly, we move into our grade 1s. First up, we have Circle Magus. Circle Magus is your only way outside of Luckbird to plus in the early game. Seeing cards like this and Luckbird early is very important. So you really want to ride this whenever possible to get that Counterblast 1, draw 1. Just solid and helps you deal with more aggressive decks like Royal Paladins and Nova Grapplers. And as long as it's on the field, when you drive check a grade 2 or greater, you can put it to bottom to draw a card. This can interact well with Onmyoji, allowing you to get rid of something that you don't really want at this exact moment to increase the guard value in your hand. And then when you want that later, you play Onmyoji and grab it. It's just very much a quality control card. It doesn't cost anything to do that, so it's just solid all around. Oracle Guardian Gemini is how you get yourself some counter charge. When you're laying the game and you've used a lot of Counterblast and you want to get some more draws, you just shove this into the soul and get a counter charge. This can also feed into Onmyoji filtering your hand, or Luckbird allowing you to get another draw. So all around, this is really solid. 2 or 3 of solid tech choice. Farfall Magus, on the other hand, is something you definitely want at 4. It's just the same stuff as Mei. On place, you get to Scry 1, which pumps up Amaterasu, increases your trigger quality, and sets up stuff at bottom for Onmyoji to grab. Mizuno Hame is a solid enough Vanguard booster for 14k. Allows your Vanguards to be hitting for 2 to 3 extra stages than they normally would, depending on the opposing clan. So it's just solid. Petal Fairy is another scry thing, not terribly good. It shoves itself into soul to give something +5 and to scry 1. Well, you only get the +5 if you put to bottom, so you know. I don't think this card is all that worth. You're minusing yourself for really no reason, and while you do plus a lot, it's not enough to make a card like this worthwhile. And Luckbird is a key card that you want 2 or 3 of. This is your only way that doesn't spend Counterblast that allows you to draw a card. Soul Blast 2 to draw 1 and get +6k. It's very, very good. Like anything that allows you to plus without spending any Counterblast is generally solid. And Luckbird does it while being an 11k booster. So he's all around a very good card. For trigger lineup, much like Royal Paladin, you don't really have a choice here. With only 2 criticals available and no other trigger types you can really run more of that aren't draws, there's no reason to not run 8 crit, 4 draw, 4 heal. Because, well, draws, you don't need them because you are a deck that turns every Counterblast into a +1. So why would you be spending anything on these draw triggers? Why would you spend more space than necessary? You need the crits to finish the game. That's the much more important thing, and to make deer go off successfully more often.
Thanks as always for watching. Since this is the last one, if you want to see clan guides for the other clans that are in V-BT01, I've done them all. Check them out in this spiffy playlist over here. And if you want to check out other kinds of content, I've been doing news discussions once or twice per week. So feel free to go check those out. And now that the set is out, I'm going to be starting to put out deck profiles and match videos and all that fun stuff. If you want to see some example decks for you to go off of with your Oracle Think Tank deck, I have linked some Japanese lists down in the description below, so go check those out. And this is Hunter Surge, signing